Alright, so you landed the interview, but you also just found out that it's going to be completely remote, something you've never done before. Well, there's no need to panic, it's not as daunting as it sounds, and you'll go through it just fine. Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Wicks, and today I'm going to be going over 5 tips for remote interviewing. Now this list might seem obvious, but last year, after going through my own remote interviews, I picked up a few tips which I thought would be helpful to you. So let's get started. Tip number 1, remember, your recruiters are there to help. So if they haven't shared anything related to remote interviewing with you yet, be sure to reach out and check in with them before your actual interview comes up. They may end up sharing general tips that apply broadly, or they might share tips that are specific to their company. For example, anything around preferred video conferencing tools or virtual whiteboarding tools. So definitely reach out to your recruiter to find out if they have any tips to share. Tip number 2, have a backup plan for your backup plan. Just be sure to have your work, including your portfolio, available in different formats, just in case. I've had a scary experience where my Squarespace site went down. Luckily, it didn't really affect anything, but I couldn't help but think, what if this happened during an interview where I needed to share my website or case studies on my website? So just be sure to have certain things in different formats that could be shared offline. For example, having your portfolio or your case studies not only available in Keynote or PowerPoint, but also as a PDF. You never know what might happen. You're at the total mercy of technology and internet services when it comes to completing a remote interview. So just be sure to have backups of backups. Tip number 3, peace and quiet. Try your best to make sure you have access to the quietest room in your home, in your apartment, wherever you might be for the entire time that you're interviewing. Now, this might seem like the most obvious tip, but let me tell you a story. Now, during one of my full-day remote interviews, I thought I had the quietest room secured. But what I didn't realize was that it was garbage day, and the dumpster is not too far from my window. Naturally, the garbage truck came during one of my one-on-ones and was extremely loud doing its thing, even though my window was closed. Luckily, the interviewer was pretty cool about it. He understood. It wasn't a big deal. But my point is, even though you secure a quiet room or you think you secure a quiet room, just double check on things. Make sure it's not garbage day or any other surprises that might throw you off. All right, and that brings us to tip number 4. And one I think is probably the most important, practice and test. So by now you would have known what video conferencing apps the company you're interviewing with prefers to use. Download it, test it out, test it with friends and family, do a video conference with them, get familiar with it. It may be your first time using it, whether it's Zoom, Google, Video. Just be sure to do a test run to get familiar with what you'll be using for a full day of interviewing. And by doing this, you might uncover issues that you could address with the recruiter just to make sure there aren't any hiccups in your setup. All right, and finally, we're at tip number 5, and that is do a test run with the company. So find out with your recruiter, if they haven't offered this already, if you could do a test run with the recruiter themselves or someone at the company to make sure everything is good to go. Ideally, you could do this maybe a half hour or 20 minutes before the actual remote interview, just to make sure that things are good on your end as well as their end. Again, everyone's relying on technology and online services, so you want to make sure that there aren't any issues that will interrupt or disrupt your remote interview. So that's it for my 5 obvious remote interviewing tips. Hopefully, it helps you with your own upcoming remote interview. And if you have any tips of your own to share, please comment below. And as always, please be sure to like and subscribe. See you all next time.